Excuse me. Thanks. Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and in this week's video I want to tell you a little bit about the Norse god Odin. So as you probably know, I'm not only a witch, but I'm also a Norse pagan. I've talked about it quite a bit on my channel, and I've also told you the story about how I dedicated myself to Odin. I will link that video in the comments and up here, I think, or here? I don't remember. It will pop up somewhere here. So yeah, I've told you the story about how I dedicated myself to Odin. So it was long overdue that I started talking to you about what Odin as a deity is like, what it's like working with him, what the myths tell us about him, what colors and animals he's connected to, and also what kinds of offerings he likes. So I will tell you about that in this video. Before we start out, a quick disclaimer. Of course, I can't cover every little thing about Odin in this video because I don't want this video to be an hour long. So of course, there won't be everything there is to know about Odin in this video. If there is something that this video was missing, then feel free to add it in the comments so everyone can read up about it. Because of course, also I'm not all-knowing, I'm not perfect, so there's always a possibility that I'm missing something very important. And if I do, please tell me about it in the comments so everyone can read about it. But without further ado, let's start with the video. Odin, or Odin, or Wotan, or Woden, he has lots of names, is the highest of the Aesir. You could call him the chief of the Aesir. The Aesir are, if you don't know it yet, one of the two deity groups in the Norse pantheon. There are the Aesir and the Vanir, and they are two separate groups of deities which also intermingle, but that's not the point of this video. Odin is the highest, or the chief of the Aesir. He, along with his brothers Vili and Ve, are one of the first deities to ever exist, because they are the children of Vestla, a giantess, and Bor, a deity. Bor is the child of Buri, and Buri was the first deity that ever existed. So they're like the third generation of deities. And because Odin is the son of a giantess and a god, you could say that he's also a child of chaos and order. So two extremes are combined within him. And with Odin, Vili and Ve, there's also a discussion about whether they are really three separate gods or if they're just three parts of Odin. So if maybe Odin is a threefold deity. One of the most commonly known bynames of Odin is the All-Father. And that is because the three gods, Odin, Vili and Ve, they created all of humanity. The story of that is that they, very quickly explained, they found two pieces of driftwood in Midgard, and they made the first two humans from it, Ask and Embla. And every one of these three deities, Odin, Vili and Ve, they gave them a gift. The gift that Odin gave to humanity was the breath of life. So Odin is basically the reason that we all exist and live. Odin has a lot of children. The most famous one will probably be Thor, but also Baldur and Hodur, and Vidar and Vauli are his children. But there's also a lot of discussion around whether a lot of other gods from the Norse pantheon could be possibly Odin's children. We unfortunately don't really know for sure. But also the situation with his women, or maybe wives, is a little bit complicated, because what we know for sure is that, let's just call her his main wife, is Frigg. But not all of his children he had with Frigg. For example, Thor is the child of Odin and Jörð. So he intermingled with a lot of goddesses and also with giantesses and humans. Odin is a god of war, ecstasy, frenzy, wisdom, divinity, magic, and poetry. He's a wise wanderer. He wanders all the worlds in search of wisdom, and he does a lot for that wisdom. One of the most famous stories of him is the story of him hanging himself from the world tree Yggdrasil for 9 nights and 9 days to gain knowledge of the runes. But he also traded one of his eyes for a drink from Mimir's well, so he could gain even more wisdom. So from those two stories alone, we can see that self-sacrifice is kind of a big thing about Odin. Odin's throne is called Klithskjalf, and from that throne, if he sits on that throne, he can see all the worlds and he can see everything that happens. But he also has two ravens called Hugin and Munin, roughly translated thought and memory, which fly over Midgard, and when they come back they tell Odin about everything that happened there. Apart from the two ravens Hugin and Munin, he also has two wolves, Geri and Freki, which sit by his side and get all the food that's served to him because he does not eat at all. He just drinks. And of course we can't forget about his eight-legged horse Sleipnir, which is actually Loki's child. Odin also has a spear called Gungnir, which strikes any target, so it's very powerful. And his hall is called Valhalla, which probably everyone has already heard about. Valhalla was extremely important to the Vikings because 50% of the Vikings that died in battle, they went to Valhalla, to Odin, and they were called the Einherjar. Now we will come to things that are connected to Odin. So his rune is Anzus. I will put it up here or here. His day is Wednesday because it actually translates to Vodin's day, so Odin's day. His colors are mostly considered deep blue, black, gray. I actually read that in a book, but I can confirm it. At least my intuition tells me that deep blue and black and gray are his colors. His numbers are 3 and 9, and his symbol is the Valknut. And apparently, animals that are connected to him are, for example, ravens and wolves and horses. Next, I would like to tell you a little bit about what working with Odin is like, because maybe some of you are interested in working with Odin. Of course, I can only tell you about my personal experience and maybe a little bit about the experiences that other people have made with him that I talked to. But of course, everybody's experience will be slightly different. So my experience and also other people's experiences have shown that Odin pops up rather unexpectedly in people's lives. So he will just randomly pop up and be like, hey, we need to talk. As a deity, he's really straight to the point, and he will have you do lots of work for him. That's for sure. Everything that I have been doing for Odin up until this point were pretty big things. I mean, as I already said, self-sacrifice is a big thing about Odin, and he will have you sacrifice also some things. At least a lot of your time. But Odin uses his followers for the greater good, so you won't just work because he feels like it. Also, he's not really a deity that is present like all the time. He will pop up here and there and tell you what to do, kind of course in a nice way, but he will just pop up from time to time and tell you something that you need to do, and then he will be gone again. And that completely makes sense. He's just not a deity that stays in one place all the time. He's a wanderer. He wanders all the world, so of course he can't be there by your side always. But although he's not like always there holding my hand, he still feels to me personally like a father figure, so that makes working with him really beautiful. Also, if you do stuff for him, he will help you. For example, I created this YouTube channel for Odin because he told me to. He told me to like spread the world and teach people about stuff. So I created this YouTube channel for him. Like my whole online presence is basically for Odin, and he's helping me with it. So he helps me gain a little bit more of a following here and there, and he doesn't really just leave you alone with the work. And one thing that's kind of for sure, if you start working with Odin, he will have you learn about the runes properly, which isn't always fun. It took me quite a lot of time and quite a lot of books to get through to, learn about runes until he's satisfied. But I would personally say if you are also a person that's on the lookout for knowledge and wisdom, then working with Odin is perfect, because it's like living with a really wise elderly person, but also at the same time a pretty serious teacher. That's for me what working with Odin feels like. And now, as the last topic for this video, I would really like to tell you a little bit about what kinds of offerings are perfect for Odin. So, first of all, food and drink wise, he loves mead. So mead or also other very hard liquors he loves. But as I said, he does not eat. So basically any food that you would give him, he wouldn't eat, he would give to Geri and Freki. So the only food that I really give to him is raw meat, just basically for his wolves. Also, everything that has to do with ravens or wolves is great. So I don't know, if you are really lucky and you are taking a walk in the woods and you find, I don't know, a wolf claw or something, or raven feathers, then that would be a great offering for Odin. When it comes to crystals, two crystals that I found that he really likes is black obsidian and Apache tears. But what I found personally is that he doesn't really actually care that much about physical offerings. What he likes much more is that you do stuff for him. Of course, gaining wisdom, so learning, doing research about stuff, especially doing research and learning about the runes, is like the best offering that you can give to Odin. But also teaching other people about stuff. For example, via YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, I don't know what. Teaching other people about stuff is also a great offering for Odin. Another thing that he really seems to like is if you write poems for him. That's something that I don't really do because I'm really bad at it, but I would really love to do that, because then at the same time I can learn about stuff, teach myself to write a little bit of poetry. So yeah, writing poems for him or maybe even singing him songs is also awesome. But if you're like me and you're not really that talented with poetry, then you can also just read his myths to him. He really likes that. And the last two things on my list that are great offerings for Odin are: 1. Donating to veteran organizations or volunteering at veteran organizations, and 2. Self-sacrifice. So maybe there's a topic that you aren't at all interested in, but doing research and learning about it, gaining wisdom, although you aren't interested in the topic at all, would be self-sacrifice. So that kind of stuff is also a great offering for Odin. And that's all that I have for you today. Please tell me in the comments whether you liked this kind of video, because I would like to do more videos about other Norse gods. So tell me if you would like that in the comments. As always, feel free to subscribe and give a thumbs up, and follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!